the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of the Fact series in which we discuss international political matters every week. This is Fouad Mahtadi, and with us from Arizona, we have Rodney Martin. He's an American media analyst. We are here to discuss the role of the American media in poisoning public minds. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Martin, and good to be with you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. For the first slide, let's get started with a sense of American media. How should we do this if we want to have a general division for the mainstream American media? Go ahead.
Well, the American media has been an instrument of government and a special interest in the United States. From literally the time that mass media developed in the United States, since before around the 1890s. Particularly, it was critical in the United States effort to start the Spanish-American War, which put the United States on the road to empire. So the media, from the inception of when it became a mass media, that's the Hearst media conglomerate, which greatly influenced American public policy, both international and in domestic policy, formulating public policy by influencing the American populace by way of misinformation, something that is called fake news today by Donald Trump, someone who champions misinformation. But as we, the most dangerous aspect of has been in foreign policy, responsible for more death, more wars, more genocide, more destruction, as it has been the cheerleader of the United States and the West, the Western allies, to go globe-trotting around the globe in pursuit of empire. I mean, I can give you numerous examples. The most glaring time period has been post-1995, when the United States literally embarked on covert operations with the British and began essentially knocking off governments. Iran is a prime example. The removal of Prime Minister Mossadegh through a coup that was actually led by an ex-president's son, Kermit Roosevelt, the ex-president being Theodore Roosevelt. American media and British media championed that as some sort of popular uprising in Iran, when in fact Kermit Roosevelt was paying people to mob into the streets, and they were all fake demonstrations. Probably the majority of them were foreign nationals trucked in by the CIA and the British. But that's just another prime example. We can go on and on. The Iraq wars, and now the concentrated effort attacks on Iran that you see day in and day out by both media enterprises on both what you would call the conservative right and the liberal left. That's one thing they agree on. They seem to agree that there has to be some sort of war with Russia and a war with Iran. And now all of a sudden, Turkey and India are starting to become bad guys as well. The reason for that is the world has become a very complex place. The world is separating from the traditional empire countries of Britain and the United States, and the world is charting its own course.
Okay, thank you so much. The most remarkable thing that these days we can see this is about the systematic censorship of the American media. The same goes for the corona outbreak process and the recent protest in the U.S. How do you assess this issue?
Well, I encourage people to go directly to foreign media. It's not hard to, if you really want to access foreign media. Iran is experiencing tremendous censorship on the international stage, particularly by Google and other tech giants at the U.S. government, and by the U.S. mainstream media, by the way, who are essentially agents, de facto agents in the narrative. Let's remember that during the Iraq War, the so-called star journalists were all just competing like madmen to embed the U.S. ground forces during a war that they now later claim that they were against. But yet they were just clamoring at the bit to shoot scenes from the battlefield in front of a country that has now been destroyed. And they just are chomping at the bit to do the same thing in Iran, which would be a totally different operation. So I think the way to address the defects, the absurdity of the mainstream media, the damage that they do, is for people to bypass them altogether, seek out mainstream, seek out foreign media, and get the truth independently. The problem is the average American is just really unwilling to do that because it takes a little extra work and a little extra time.
Okay, great. And how do the American media mobilize the public mind in the interest of the system?
Oh, that's an easy question to answer. It's the old adage that they just keep repeating the same lie over and over. And then, of course, there's this crossover. The lie is also repeated in houses of worship among Christian Zionist houses of worship. Iran bad, Saudi Arabia good. And if you really look at the two dynamics there, the reverse is actually the truth. We can go on and on. Israel good, Iran bad, but in fact Israel is engaging in the most brutal ethnic cleansing and repression in centuries in the form of what's happening to the Palestinians. It far exceeds what happened to Jews in the Holocaust. So I think that that is their main objective, is they just keep repeating the same lie, and then that lie is repeated in critical areas such as the houses of worship or maybe civic clubs and such, and so you just keep repeating the lie. There's an old saying that a lie has already traveled twice around the world before the truth gets out of bed in the morning, and that is definitely the case in the United States. Very few Americans are willing to verify something that they're told.
Mm-hmm. Great. Another important question in my perspective, if we want to make a connection between propaganda and the media censorship, where will be that point? And how do these two cover each other?
Well, in the last, say, 5 years, the mainstream media in the United States has become completely propaganda, and they hold their monopolistic position by way of censoring true journalists and true independent media, and now they're attacking foreign media. Foreign media is getting a message out that's contrary to their propaganda. They knock them off social media, they knock them off YouTube, they knock them off Google, and so that is how they operate. You look at the paradigm in the United States and in the West in general, you have these two diametrically different messages that are designed to radicalize their respective bases, which is either the hard left or the hard right. And if you're outside of that narrative, asking for peace and common sense, then you're marginalized and you're shut out. And keep in mind, both this left and right, they do agree on this very imperialistic foreign policy, which is rather odd, to say the least.
Right. Actually, one of the policies pursued by the American media is the policy of divisiveness among the different countries and governments. An example could be the divisiveness between Iran and Afghanistan. Is U.S. governance depend on this policy?
Oh, absolutely. The United States government and the media in general thrives on having to have a boogeyman and a bad guy. And if there's not one, they'll create one. They created ISIS as the boogeyman to run around terrorizing the Middle East. And of course, they say Iran is now the boogeyman. But yet it was Iran, under the auspices of General Soleimani, who defeated ISIS in Iraq, helping Iraq defeat ISIS. So, like I said, they have to function on boogeyman, and this goes all the way back to post-World War II when the Soviet Union was the boogeyman. When the Soviet Union collapsed, they had to find a new boogeyman, and that became Islam. And not just terrorists. Keep in mind, Muslims suffer far more from terrorists than anybody else. It had to be all of Islam. There is this illness of Islamophobia that is baked into the American political system and the media that portrays Muslims as either untrustworthy or terrorists. And that is something that we're going to have to reckon with because we're seeing more and more of our Muslim brothers and sisters in the United States take up more important roles. We're seeing them as productive members of society, and we're seeing them speak out more than we're seeing anybody else. And I'm optimistic that time will heal these things, but the United States tends to lag the rest of the world in progress by about 50 to 60 years.
Mm-hmm. Great. And how do you analyze the policy of American media regarding the news coverage of the outbreak of coronavirus and the spread of this disease among the people of the world, especially in Iran as well as in the U.S.?
Well, it's disingenuous. The news media on the left side of the spend all their time blaming Donald Trump, of course. Donald Trump's media supporters spend all their time denying that it was rather as serious as it was. And in the meantime, they completely ignored the overall danger and damages that it's been causing. I mean, the real story was that the outbreak around the country. The real story, which no media outlet in the United States covered, was the fact that the death toll in Iran was so high because the United States prohibited Iran from buying medical supplies and equipment and medicine from around the globe. And that has never been covered. People who wanted to learn that had to learn that through the international media and international media, not the U.S. media. And any attempt to bring it up, like in commenting on an American news story, that comment would be censored. The American news media's coverage of the coronavirus has been disingenuous and very politicized. It has not been intellectually honest by any means.
As we know, the United States is facing widespread civil protests against racism and injustice. Is the American media covering the news as it is?
Well, the American media, with regard to the race issue, I believe that's your question, they have actually inflamed it more than they've done when reported it. They've gone to great lengths because, as I said, the media, as well as the United States, they have to have a boogeyman. They have to have something exciting to cover. And so a large amount of some of the racial tension in the United States has been more inflamed by the media and some of their talking head commentators. They could have done a lot more to cover some of the individuals in both paradigms of this discussion that were seeking unity and seeking discussion. Instead, the media, one side of the media went to their respective extremes, the other side went to their respective extremes, and who has been hurt by this is the average African American, the average Latino American, the average white American, the average Asian American that try to go about their lives every day, work hard every day. There's a tremendous amount of intermarried families in the United States. They are being affected by this discussion and by this inflamed racial tension. And the media has not served the citizens well. What they have served is to gin up a lot of race hatred in an effort to run up their ratings, much like we see them engaging in Islamophobia. We see them now being able to do the exact same thing internally in the United States.
Okay, great. And what is the U.S. media's approach to the upcoming presidential election?
Well, much like the coronavirus, much like the race issue, much like some other issues, the United States media, mainstream media, the networks, have drawn their respective sides. For the most part, when it comes to election coverage, Americans have a choice of opinions to watch, and then have to try to draw their own conclusions, understanding that you tune over to Fox News and listen to one opinion, turn over to MSNBC, listen to one opinion, and then try to navigate the facts in the center somewhere. The fact of the matter is, the United States is so polarized, we're basically dealing with a 40-40 country with about 20% in the middle, and that 20% is going to decide the election. And to a large degree, that 20% just doesn't watch the media. They're pretty savvy, they're pretty sophisticated, and they draw their information like a lot of people from international sources, from independent sources. So my prediction is about 20% of the electorate is going to determine how this election turns out in 2020, and it's probably going to be a big surprise.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And for the last question, it is about Iran and the role of American media. The hostile policies of the United States, especially against Iran, are not concealed to anyone. How are these policies pursued in the American media?
Well, the American media, as I indicated, we have two diametrically opposing political poles in the media. Very extreme left, very extreme right, but the one thing they agree on is the agreed upon boogeyman of the day, and the agreed upon boogeyman of the day is Iran and Russia and China. with Iran being public enemy number one in the United States, and there's no intellectual honesty basis for that whatsoever, except Islamophobia and, of course, a very firm grip of Jewish Zionist control within the American media, which everybody understands exists. You look at who the media barons are and who are untouchable when it comes to, for instance, is Israel really ever criticized in the American media? It's not. So I think if you look at who holds the majority of political power in the United States, there's a direct correlation to where the media actually goes. And if you look into two political parties, Democrat and Republican, you have a strong concentration of Jewish Zionist power. What I was saying is of the two political parties, both are dominated by a very strong Zionist Israeli lobby. And there's a direct correlation between the unanimity of the media in both political polls and that the Jewish Zionist lobby. So the support for Israel is uniform in both left and right American media. The demonization of Iran is uniform in both the left and right American media, and that lines up succinctly with the policies of Israel. It does not line up with reality of Iran. It does not line up with what Americans think and believe, but that has been the history of the United States media since 1945.
Great. Thank you so much. If you would like to add something more, I'm all ears.
Well, just in closing, I would again, as I said when I started out, Americans that seek the truth in terms of information, particularly in this critical time, should seek out foreign media. If you want to know about Iran, then you seek out Iranian media and learn about Iranian people and what's being discussed in Iran and how Iran feels about Americans. You do not see on Iranian media the demonization of Americans in America. Quite the opposite that you see on American media. So that's why I'll close on that, is people are going to have to learn to be better free thinkers and researchers. Lest they follow the mistakes of the past and get led down the path of very bad public policy.
Ray, thank you so much for joining us again, and I do appreciate you to your noteworthy remarks, and I hope things are going well with you. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Dear audience, it was another talk with Rodney Martin, an American media analyst, and the role of the American media in the poisoning public mind. Thanks for watching and catch you later.